for you. So it'll give you a good understanding of what the destination has to offer, and maybe if you're thinking about planning your own holiday with Louise, where you might want to stay and what you're looking to get out of a holiday in the Maldives. There is more to it than just beautiful beaches and nice lagoons, although that's a pretty key element. Anyway, so we'll cover all that. We'll cover a little bit about geography, history, the weather, when's good to go. And yeah, so without further ado, the Maldives. So set in the Indian Ocean, it's quite a unique destination because it is, of course, made up of private islands. So they're coral islands, and they're private guests and staff staying on these islands, which has meant during this time with pandemics and difficult situation for the travel industry, the Maldives has kind of bucked the trend and done extremely well and been the place to go because it's a safe destination. And it's been open since last summer. It opened up in July, and it's had a steady stream of business since then. And it's been one of the most accessible countries to travel to, particularly from the UK. When we were able to travel internationally, the Maldives was pretty straightforward. And there was the travel corridor as well that opened up towards the end of last year, which meant if you were flying direct from the UK to the Maldives, when you came back to the UK, you didn't have to quarantine because the case numbers in the Maldives were very, very low. So it was seen as a safe destination to travel to. And then we had Dubai added onto that travel corridor. So it meant you could also go via Dubai to the Maldives. So you had two different routes, and it was very, very accessible. So we'll wait to see what will happen when UK international travel is allowed again, and whether or not the Maldives will be put back on. Sorry, I just moved my phone. Will be put back on the travel corridor. I would imagine it will be again because the cases are pretty low, and it really lends itself pretty well for the current conditions that we're under. So private islands, a lot of open air, dining tends to be open air. It's a perfect place to do social distancing without having to worry too much. So it's a great safe destination. And right now, the requirements to enter the Maldives are that you need to take a PCR test within 96 hours of your departure. And that test, of course, has to be negative. And you bring your test certificate with you. And you also fill out a health declaration form online. And those are the two things you need to do to gain entry into the Maldives and to stay at your resort. Oh, you'll need a confirmation of where you're staying as well. And on your return back to the UK, of course, to re-enter the UK, you need a PCR test. So they actually do the PCR tests on the resort. Every resort in the Maldives has testing facilities. They've been very active in getting all this ready for the reopening last summer. So their PCR tests are available on resort. It can be done from the comfort of your villa, and you get the result within 24 hours. It costs about $150 per person. So those are the requirements, pretty straightforward. There's no real quarantine required on the resorts. You can't currently travel to local islands, so you do have to stay on the private island that you're visiting at the moment. Once the vaccine gets rolled out to the Maldives population, and the rollout is going quite well, it's going quite quickly, then excursions to local islands will become available. But in the meantime, you can go to sandbanks, to deserted islands, you go snorkeling, diving, all the other stuff. It's just mingling with locals is at the moment off limits. And we'll see. I would imagine it will probably change come the summer. Okay, so Maldives is set in the Indian Ocean. It's south of India and Sri Lanka, and it's made up of an archipelago of islands, 1,190 coral islands to be precise. So it's the world's most disparate country. The islands themselves are small, but the area is quite large, 90,000 square kilometers. And I think you can imagine it like an underwater mountain range. And the tops of the mountains are sandbanks. And on top of those sandbanks, there are about 150 very nice luxury hotels. So it's quite a unique geography. And around the hotels, you have nice lagoons, great for swimming in. And beyond the lagoons, you have reefs, great for snorkeling and diving. But I've just got this map up here for you to give you an understanding of, and I'll just pull up my pointer as well, of the geography. So this is the North and South Mali Atoll, this area roughly in the middle of the Maldives. And here, right here, is Mali Airport. So this is where everybody flies into the Maldives. That's the international arrivals. And from here, everything is kind of routed. So if you're staying in the North or the South Mali Atoll, it's a speedboat transfer. Doesn't take very long. Usually it's about half an hour, 45 minutes speedboat to whichever resort you're staying at. And there's a lot of properties in this area because it's relatively close to the airport. It's quite accessible, easy to get to. So you do have a large proportion of the resorts based here, and their speedboat transfers day or night. Doesn't matter what time you arrive into the Maldives, you can get a speedboat transfer to your preferred island in this area. Very nice properties, easily accessible, and so, yeah, you've got famous ones like in the 5-star. You've got one and only Riti Rai, you might have heard of, Waldorf Astoria, Gili Lankan Fushi, and then some really good 4-stars like the Oblu Select and the Atmosphere properties. There's a few of those based there, and old classics as well like Bandos and Olivelli. So a lot of properties to choose between. If you go further afield though, say as an example, you go up to the northwest here. This atoll is called the Bar Atoll, BAA, and Bar Atoll is quite famous for a specific reason. It's got a marine protected biosphere, which is the only marine protected biosphere in the Maldives, and it's called the Hanafaru Bay. And basically, it's a small bay that seems to, because of the currents, attracts large quantities of plankton, and the plankton attracts large quantities of manta rays, and because it's a small bay and they're sort of kind of funneled in, the manta rays go on a feeding frenzy on the large numbers of plankton that gathers there. And sometimes you can have up to like 40, 50 manta rays in a pretty small area. So it's a great place to visit if you want to go snorkeling with mantas, which is an amazing experience, or just swimming with mantas. So if you're staying in the Bar Atoll, then that's a fun day trip you could do. I think you can get a permit for 2 hours, and you can buy that permit at the resort through the dive center or the water sports center, and you can visit the Hanafaru Bay. It's something I've actually not done myself. My colleagues have done, and they said it was their favorite experience in the Maldives so far. So it's definitely next on my to-do list. And yeah, amazing. There's some good properties there too. Our top selling property at the moment is an island called Finolu, and that's a lead-in 5-star all-inclusive with a kilometer-long sandbank, and that would be an ideal property to stay at if you wanted to go and swim with mantas. The possibility of seeing them is year-round. The best time though is from May to October. That's when you get the largest quantity of plankton, and sometimes you could also see whale sharks as well in this area around the Hanafaru Bay. So manta rays and whale sharks be pretty amazing. But to reach somewhere like the Bar Atoll, you can see it's a little bit further from the airport. You can't take a speedboat. The speedboats only service North and South Mali Atoll. Too far for a speedboat to go up all the way up here. So you take a seaplane or a domestic flight. The seaplanes go from the airport and they fly. Again, the transfer time is about 35, 40 minutes to get to your property. And most of the seaplanes land on a jetty just by the property, or sometimes you have like a floating airport, which is basically just a sort of landing area. Well, of course, they land on the water, and next to it is a sort of floating pontoon where you get off, and then a speedboat picks you up. So that's pretty cool as well. So seaplanes, they service really the atolls in this kind of circumference around the North and South Mali Atoll. Too far for a speedboat, but no problem for a seaplane. And then if you're going really, really far south or really, really far north, down at the bottom here, you've got Garn and the Garn Atoll, which is a long distance from Mali. Or if you're going up to the far north as well, it's quite a long way, even for a seaplane to travel. They have larger aircraft, domestic flights that will go to local island airports, and then from there you take a speedboat to whichever island you're staying at. So there's 3 options of transfer, and depending on which island you're staying at, the geography, it's basically its proximity to Mali. Everything comes through Mali. Okay, so speaking of Mali, this is a picture of Mali Airport, just here. There have been some improvements made since this picture was taken, but it gives you an idea of what the it's basically a runway in the sea. And to the left, you've got the airport terminal with the international arrivals, and this is where our team come in. We're Hummingbird Travel. We're actually based in the destination. We have an office on Mali, and we have our ground handling team at the airport. So if you book with a TC, we work with travel counsellors, and we'll be there to do the meet and greet when you arrive, and make sure you get to your resort safely and assist you with your luggage. And if there's any issues, delayed flights, lost luggage, anything, we're on hand to assist you, and so give you a bit of comfort arriving in a new country. So upon arrival, you would have given in your PCR certificate. You would have passed through the arrivals doors. You'll be met by our team, and you'll be taken through. The speedboats leave from the jetty just here, so directly in front of the arrivals. And then the seaplanes take off from this lagoon just here. So there's a seaplane terminal, and depending on the resort, it might be a shared lounge, or some of the resorts have their own private seaplane lounges where you can get a bit of breakfast, some coffee before your seaplane. The usual waiting time will be anywhere between 1 to 2 hours. And if it's bad weather, there might be a slight delay, but usually it's 1 to 2 hours. The domestic flights, they take off from the same runway as the internationals. Now, they have built a bridge just on the bottom left here, which you can see in the picture below, and that bridge now connects to Mali City. Mali City is the capital of Maldives. It's one of the most densely populated cities in the world, and it's really where our Maldives office is based. It's where a lot of local Maldivians, the majority of Maldivians, live and work. So it's a very busy, bustling city. If you're interested, right now you wouldn't be allowed to visit, but come the summer, I think you probably will be. If you're interested in visiting it, or you have some time to kill before your departure flight, we do give tours. There are some interesting historical sites in Mali. It's traditionally been the seat of power for the Maldives since the Maldives really began about 2,500 years ago. So it's where the kings and the sultans have always had their seat of power. And it's got beautiful mosques, historically old mosques. It's got some Buddhist remains. Buddhism was the religion in the Maldives about 300 BC before, and then Islam arrived not until the 12th century. So yes, it's got an interesting history, and then colonial history as well, with the Portuguese, the Dutch, and lastly the British. Maldives was a British protectorate from the 19th century. So there's lots of good shops, restaurants. There's an amazing fish market. I would say 2 hours would probably do. You could get a nice little taster of local life in the big city for about 2 hours. Go to some of the key historical sites, have a really nice lunch, ice cream, cup of coffee, and then you catch your flight home. That is an option. You can get a taxi there over the bridge, or you can take a donie over from the airport as well. So yeah, in terms of the logistics and transport, I mentioned the seaplanes. Now, the seaplanes are quite nice because the altitude that they fly at, it gives you a really nice view out the window, and you can see beautiful things, beautiful islands. The speedboats, they travel day or night. If you're lucky, you might see some dolphins. Then the domestic flights are larger and more comfortable than the seaplanes, and they have air conditioning. And they also, while don't fly quite as low as the seaplanes, they still give you good views out the window. The seaplanes are slightly restricted because they only fly during daylight hours. So if you're going to a hotel that's only reachable by a seaplane, the latest you should arrive in is at 3 p.m. Anything later than 3 p.m., you do run the risk of missing the last seaplane of the day, and you won't be able to transfer to your hotel until the following day. That's not an issue with the speedboats. Day or night they operate, and the domestic flights, they fly until about midnight. So it's just seaplanes are a bit more time specific. So something to bear in mind when looking at your international arrivals. But again, this would only affect a hotel that is only reachable by seaplane. Skip over these. Oh yes, so onto the terms of when is the best time to travel to the Maldives? Well, the Maldives is a year-round destination. You can travel any month of the year, and you've got a pretty good chance of good weather and not an awful lot of rainfall. But right now, we are in the peak season, which runs from January to April. Statistically, has the least amount of rainfall. It has the hottest weather, the most consistently sunny days. So this is the peak season. It's when lots of people are traveling. And despite our markets being closed, the Maldives is actually still really, really busy with other markets that are kind of filling the gaps. But it also means that period from sort of festive until April is the most expensive time to travel as well. It's when the rates, sometimes the rates are like double the price of what they are from May to October, which you'll find actually you can get some really good deals in May to October. And I always say don't be shy of looking at those months, particularly later on in June. July, August, statistically low amounts of rainfall and much lower rates. So it's a good time to get a really good deal. So yeah, late June, July, August, particularly really good time to get a deal, and still great chance of great weather as well. You do have to be a little bit careful towards the end of May, the beginning of June. It's the change of the season. So you do tend to get more unsettled weather for a period of 2 to 3 weeks. And the same thing happens again the end of September, beginning of October. Unsettled weather for a period of a couple of weeks. But outside of that, I think you'll be okay. So because the Maldives is close to the equator, it's hot year round. It doesn't matter what time of the year you're there, it's hot and it's humid, but you do get a nice sea breeze throughout the year. May to October is the time to go if you really, really want to see the most amount of like whale sharks, or if you want to do surfing, that's a good time to go. There's a bit more in terms of waves and more plankton in the sea. So yeah, in terms of clothing, I mean, it's smart casual really. Cottons, linens, always good. I would say, you know, it's pretty laid back on the resorts. But in terms of going for lunch and dinner, you can wear whatever you want, but it would be slightly frowned upon if you just turned up in your swimwear. So it depends on the resort, of course, but just putting a t-shirt on or wearing a sort of linen shirt or something like that, you'll look cool, and a pair of sandals. I think that's absolutely acceptable. But barefoot luxury as well. So, you know, barefoot, take it easy, relax. That is definitely the vibe in the Maldives. It's not too concerned with dressing up for dinner or anything like that. And yeah, the Maldives is quite a, if you want to explore outside of just the private resorts you're staying at, it does have quite a rich cultural mix. Because of its location in the Indian Ocean, it has had influences from Africa, the Middle East, from India, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia. It was a stopping off point for traders from all these countries, and Maldives being kind of in the middle of the Indian Ocean, they would stop there. And there are influences that can be found in the music. There's a local music is Bodu Beru, where the storytelling, the stories of sea monsters, sea demons, and most resorts will do that. So I do recommend listening to a bit of local Bodu Beru, which involves dancing and storytelling. When you're on the beach having a cocktail, maybe there's a fire and there's a bit of Bodu Beru while the sun is setting. It's a really nice experience, and gives you a little insight into local culture. But in Maldives, yeah, was converted to Islam in the 12th century, so it remains an Islamic country. And so when you're on a local island, it will be different to the private island that you're staying at. So you can't bring alcohol onto a local island or buy alcohol on a local island. But on a private island, it's no problem. But you can't bring alcohol into the country. You have to buy everything on resorts. So if you do like a beer or you like a cocktail, I would recommend usually, if you can, booking on all-inclusive, because otherwise, I've experienced it myself in the past. I have run up some pretty scary big bills in the Maldives, and that's just on fam trips, going a bit crazy on bottles of wine and things, because the weather's really nice, it's really beautiful. You want to have some fun, and then you get the bill at the end and you're sweating a little bit. So if you're on all-inclusive, it takes all the worry of that away. So yeah, for me personally, I would always, wherever possible, go on all-inclusive. If drinking is not important to you at all, then it's food. I would at least look at maybe like a half board, or even, you know, full board, even better. But a half board is fine. You know, having a big breakfast and then a big dinner, and then maybe just a little snack at lunch. The food is amazing though, so it's pretty tempting to eat yourself throughout the day. So yeah. Any other practical info for you? Yes, I mean, the currency, you can use dollars, pounds, euros on resort. The local currency is Rafia, but apart from most people take dollars and pounds, so that won't really be an issue. For internet, all the resorts will have internet and Wi-Fi coverage. We can also supply SIM cards on arrival for guests if you want to use your phone and save money. The local network is called Duragaru, and it's quite good. So if you want to make calls to home, you can pick up a local SIM. Yeah, luggage restrictions. Seaplanes take 20 kilograms of hold luggage and 5 kilograms of hand luggage. So, and that's also actually on the domestic flights. So if you go over that allowance, if you've got trunks and trunks of maybe you're a diver and you've got some tanks and weights or something and you brought them with you, or a surfer, you brought your surfboard with you, you may be charged a little bit extra to get that stuff on the seaplane. If it's over the weight allowance, but it will, whatever you bring with you, it will make it to the resort. It might not make it on the flight you're on, it might come on the next one, but it will make it to the resort. We had some guests arrive the other day at the Waldorf Astoria, and they had 25 cases of luggage, which was ridiculous. But anyway, anything's possible. Anything's possible in the Maldives, of course. And that's another thing we try and do. We try and make things happen. So don't be shy in asking for something super special, whether or not, maybe you're celebrating your birthday or on a honeymoon or anniversary, whatever it is, and you want to do something special. Maybe consider doing a barbecue on a sandbank in the middle of the ocean, or going to a picnic island, or a dinner on the beach, just on the island that you're staying at is always nice. Or anything's possible. Anything's possible. We can hire in musicians. We can get fire dancers, magicians we've had in the past for parties and things. So let your imagination run wild, I would definitely say. So just a little, I won't bore you with the finer details of the all-inclusive packages, but basically as a rough overview, if you're staying at a 4-star, then the basic all-inclusive package will be quite basic. It will be breakfast, lunch, and dinner just in the main restaurant and some selected brands of spirits. But if you're staying at a 5-star and it's got it says premium or it says plus, then the all-inclusive package usually means you can dine in all the different restaurants and you get access to all the different drinks, spirits, beverages, cocktails. It's a more comprehensive all-inclusive plan. So there are really 2 types of all-inclusive. There's a standard and then there's a premium version. So just to be aware of. And why would you travel to the Maldives? Well, there are various reasons. I think probably the one that the most obvious is it is the ultimate beach stay destination. And we also sell Sri Lanka, Seychelles, and Mauritius, which also have very nice beaches. But hands down, the Maldives has the best beaches. It's the ultimate beach stay. You're staying on private islands with guests and staff. And these islands tend not to have much more than, 120, 30 rooms at the most. So you're not going to be sharing the beach with many other people, just the paying guests on the island and the staff serving. So you have really the place to yourself, which you can't find in many other destinations. So like Sri Lanka has beautiful beaches, but they're not private. You might have a series of hotels along a beach, and they're also open to the public. So you're never going to get that same privacy that you get in the Maldives, which, if you're a family who are going away for like a good quality family time and you just want to have dinner together on the beach and play beach volleyball, go snorkeling, whatever it is, you can really kind of feel like it's an exclusive personal time and you can just absolutely relax. Or if you're a honeymooner couple, that level of privacy is hard to match in any other destination in the world. The fact that the islands are made from coral white sand that's built up over thousands and thousands of years from coral that's eroded, and it's built up and formed sandbanks. It's like fine white sand, so it's really nice to walk on, and it's surrounded by these turquoise blue lagoons, which are warm, and the water is really, really warm. So beach and water, I think the Maldives has that covered pretty well, and I'm sure you already kind of knew that. And then also the villas themselves, like the beach villas have direct access onto the beach, or the water villas tend to have steps leading down into the lagoon. So in terms of like the positioning of the rooms, the Maldives, I think, also has an advantage over several other destinations. So, Mauritius, again, beautiful beaches, but you will tend to find that the resort is set back from the beach. And then in front of the resort, you have like a big resort complex. Then you would have some gardens with some palm trees, and you walk past that. And then eventually get to the beach, but it's usually set back quite a long way. Whereas the Maldives, you literally open the front of your beach villa, you walk about 2 meters, and there is the sea, there is the beach. You're kind of right there. So again, I think because of the geography of the Maldives being small private islands, it's hard to match that kind of direct access. And then there's lots to do as well. If you're interested in getting in the water, water sports, seeing mantas, turtles, snorkeling, diving, there's lots to explore in the Maldives beyond just relaxing on the beach. And I would highly recommend that. There's a huge variety of ecosystems at play under the water, lots of coral, mantas, eagle rays, turtles, reef tip sharks, you name it, they've got it. They're whale sharks, really amazing. So unfortunately, coral bleaching is a sad reality in the world at the moment because of rising sea temperatures, climate change. A lot of the world's coral has been bleached, and basically when I say bleached, it means that the coral has lost some of its color. It's got like a chalky white color, and that is due to the warming of the temperatures of the sea. The advantages that the Maldives has in fighting these rising sea temperatures and fighting coral bleaching is the islands themselves all have marine biology departments on them, and they play an active role in replanting coral and growing back the coral that is damaged. So actually, the resort islands have a positive effect on their surrounding ecosystems, whereas if the resorts weren't there and the coral wasn't being managed, then actually it would be worse off than if the resort was there. So it's actually nice to have a positive effect that your money is going towards maintaining the health of the reefs, and a healthy reef maintains the marine life. So you're having a sort of positive effect on the local ecosystems. So that's one of the nice things that you can get involved in the replanting of coral as well. So they grow basically coral frames on the resort. They grow the coral on those frames, and then when the coral is ready, they plant it in the actual reef. But yeah, so every resort will have a water sports department and a dive department. And if you want to learn how to dive, if you've never been before, the Maldives is a great place to learn. It's got incredible visibility, and you could maybe go diving with whale sharks. They have no teeth, they're super friendly, and they just feed on plankton, and it'd be an amazing experience. If you're particularly interested in whale sharks, probably the best place in the Maldives to go is an area called the South Ari Atoll, ARI Atoll. Quite a few properties down there, but some of the famous ones for you is the Lux South Ari is a very popular one, Lily Beach, Conrad, Mirihi, and I think our top seller is Constance Mufushi. And they're all really nice properties, but they are the best places to stay if you want to go diving. And you can see whale sharks year round. You can go diving or snorkeling depending on what you want to do. That's the place to go. They are pretty amazing, amazing beasts. But yeah, so you can learn how to dive. If you're an experienced diver, then just requires a quick orientation, and you can be doing incredible dives, shipwreck dives, whale sharks, night dives, drift dives. Lots of interesting mix, and also a great place for kids to learn as well. They have bubble makers courses, so their kids can get involved in learning how to dive as well. And I mentioned surfing earlier. Yeah, surfing available from May to October. World-class surfing. If you've never surfed before in your life, some of the resorts actually have surf schools. So if you're feeling a bit active, then you could maybe learn how to surf, or at least how to paddleboard. Some examples for you. This isn't possible at every resort in the Maldives, but at Six Senses Lamu, they have a surf school. At Niama, they have a surf school. They're probably the two best, I would say. But there's also some affordable options closer to Mali. There's the Hudaran Fushi that has a surf facilities as well. So that's only really possible May to October. You could learn how to surf if you want to do lots of other things like windsurfing, snorkeling, hiring snorkeling equipment, very important. And as a general rule, if you're doing motorized stuff like jet skis, sea bobs, you do have to pay on the resort. But there's things like kayaks, canoes, catamarans, and snorkeling, that's usually complimentary. So yeah, and the resorts, there is a different resort for everyone. And I think the secret is when you're looking at where you want to stay, is try and give your TC as much information about what you want out of your holiday as possible. So as an example, if you're really keen on doing snorkeling and you would like to do that maybe on a daily basis, then let your TC know, because not all resorts have amazing house reefs. Some of them have bigger lagoons. If maybe if you want to play around with jet skis, you have no interest in snorkeling. Some resorts are better for like motorized water sports. Some resorts are better for just amazing snorkeling. Maybe you want a big island with a choice of restaurants. Maybe you want a small island that's more sort of adult focused and quiet. All this kind of information is really helpful, and it can help us narrow it down. There's 150 resorts in the Maldives, and we can narrow down quite quickly the more information you give us. So you tell us what you want out of your holiday, what you want to be doing, and we can narrow down 150 to maybe 3 pretty quickly. So Maldives traditionally always been a honeymooner destination, of course, because you do have very private islands, unmatched privacy, and there are some islands that are actually adult only. So as an example, so like a 4-star island that's quite small, boutique is Kamandu. It's all inclusive, adults only, no kids allowed. It's got a great house reef, and that's always been a very popular one. Barros as well is relatively close to the airport, and you can very, very nice, and it's no kids allowed there. Or the Hurawali, which is like a 5-star all-inclusive, no kids, and it has an underwater restaurant as well. So there are certain resorts that are adult only, or there are at least resorts that are more adult focused, and you can do stargazing, very little light pollution in the Maldives, amazing sunsets and sunrises, of course. And yeah, I mean, usually our average stay would be about 7 nights. I think that's probably the average from the UK. But conversely, you also have resorts that maybe are a bit larger and have more facilities. The adult focused islands tend to be quite small, boutique, quiet, maybe 1 main restaurant, 1 main bar. But then you also have resorts that are much, much bigger. Maybe you need a bicycle to get around them, and they have a larger choice of restaurants. They might even have like 5 or 6 different restaurants, and larger room types, interconnecting rooms, 2, 3, 4 bedroom villas, and they'll have kids clubs and teens clubs. And really, I really bang the drum a lot for how good a destination Maldives is for families. But I think because it's like that private quality time with your family, we get a lot of multi-generational stays now with grandparents, parents, grandchildren all staying together, maybe in a 2, 3, 4 bedroom villa or in villas next to each other. And yeah, just being able to have dinners together in your villa or on the beach, and there's really no pressure to do too much if you don't want to. You don't have to be anywhere by a certain time. You don't have a sort of tight schedule to stick to. It's just you can just relax, unwind, go snorkeling, maybe go on a sunset cruise or a dolphin cruise one day of the week, do some stargazing, go on a treasure hunt. It's pretty tough to beat, in my opinion, going to a private sandbank or to a picnic island, and with a picnic and being dropped off by boat and just left there with like some lunch, maybe some music, set up some parasols, and you're in the middle of nowhere on a picnic island having a barbecue. Maybe there's a case of cold beers or some orange juice or whatever it is, and you've got maybe some sea bobs to play around with, and they just leave you, and they'll come and pick you up in a few hours. And to do that with friends, loved ones, family, really, really amazing experience, and you can't do that in many other places. So I gave some examples of some family-friendly properties, but yeah, Oliveli is a good 4-star, all-inclusive, great family facilities. Lux Ariatel is a sort of leading 5-star, and it's got a really good teens club and a kids club. So children of all ages, well looked after, activities organized throughout the week for them. So it basically means the parents can chill out, do their own thing if they want to, knowing that the kids are having an amazing time, doing loads of fun adventures of their own. So Niama, also the same. It's a 5-star spread over 2 islands, which is a little bit unique. And they have loads of great facilities, surf school, good choice of restaurants, and loads of good facilities for kids. Kandima as well. If any of you are interested in doing skydiving, Kandima I think is the only property in the Maldives where you can also do skydiving. So I only found out about this the other day. I didn't realize, but yeah, you can do skydiving now in the Maldives as well. So any adrenaline junkies, that's also possible. But probably most people won't be skydiving, but they will probably want to do some snorkeling in the lagoon. So I've used a picture here of the Dusit Thani, which is famous because it's got a really good house reef. So I thought it was quite a good example for you. So if I use my scanner, I can show you. It's obviously got the island, which is very lush green foliage with a nice beach around it. And then as we get out past the island, you can see this shallow turquoise lagoon water, and that will usually come up to about your waist. Nice to paddle around in. It's pretty shallow. It's very warm, heated by the sun all day. And as we get past the water villas, we again get to this area here. This is the drop off, and it's like a cliff edge, just goes straight down. And so you swim out to that area, and that's where you get a lot of the coral reef and a lot of the marine life gathers is all around here. So what I like to do personally is to swim out from the beach. Doesn't take very long, or wade out most likely, and get to the drop off, and with your snorkeling equipment that you've taken from the water sports department, just go around the coral reef and just follow it around 360 degrees and just see what different marine life you see. And you will see reef tip sharks, you'll see eagle rays, maybe you'll see some mantas, you'll see lots of tropical colorful fish and turtles, and you'll see something different everywhere you look, every time you do it. Octopus, and it's really stunningly beautiful and a real privilege to do, I think. So that's one of my favorite things to do, and sometimes you'll find that maybe that will be a really important thing for you. And if you want to do that and you don't want to have to get a speedboat to go to a reef, and you just want to be able to do it in your own time whenever you feel like it, then I would recommend looking at a resort with what we would call having a house reef. And a house reef basically is a reef like Dusit Thani that you can swim to directly from the beach. You don't need to get a speedboat to get to it. About 50% of the resorts in the Maldives have a reef you can swim to. The other 50%, they do require a speedboat transfer. And yeah, I've just kind of included a few of the other quirky, fun things you can do in the Maldives, but there are submarine tours you can take, like Vela Private Island is very expensive, but they have their own brand submarine, but there are more affordable options. So if you don't want to get wet, hop in a submarine, have a play around. You can dine underwater now. There's quite a few resorts that have underwater restaurants. This is at the Hurawali, which I mentioned is very good for honeymooners and adult only. But there are also properties. You've got the Conrad, the Anantara Key Harbour, that also have very impressive underwater restaurants. The Atmosphere Ozone as well is another. So yeah, and if you're staying 7 nights, you're all inclusive, you get one meal included at the underwater restaurant, which is pretty much a once in a lifetime experience anyway. It's really amazing, and you're surrounded by an abundance of marine life, and maybe you're eating some delicious seafood as well. That's your bag. Or if dining underwater isn't enough, you could always stay underwater. There are now underwater rooms. You've got one at the Conrad called the Maraca. There's also a more affordable versions at a property called the Pullman, which is like a leading 5-star in the south. Very, very nice. But with the Maraca, how it works is you do have a bedroom upstairs over water in the water villa. But you also have the option, if you want to go down a spiral staircase, you have an underwater room as well. So that's quite expensive, but quite a cool experience. Otherwise, at Finalu, which I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, in the Bar Atoll, it has a kilometre-long sandbank, which is very, very nice. And at the end of it, they've set up a bubble lodge, which maybe at the end of your stay, maybe you want to do 1 or 2 nights in the bubble lodge, sleep under a starlit canopy. Great sunsets, great for just looking up at the stars at night. Very little light pollution in the Maldives, so you get amazing stars. And yeah, it could be an amazing experience for honeymooners or whoever. So that is a little value add you could add onto your stay. But stargazing, yeah, is amazing. There are observatories in the Maldives you can use. This is a picture of Seniva Fushi, which is a very sort of eco-friendly island, luxurious 5-star barefoot. They have an amazing sort of treehouse restaurant, which is connected by a walkway that goes through the treetops to an observatory where you can do stargazing. And they have a qualified astronomer who will point out the different constellations, and you may be holding a cocktail and they're shining on the different constellations for your reference. And yeah, I did it myself, and I saw the storm clouds on Jupiter and the rings on Saturn, and it was absolutely amazing. And then our resorts that have water slides as well. So a water slide going directly into the lagoon, it is actually as much fun as it looks. And so, yeah, this is actually a restaurant. It's called Out of the Blue, again at Sunibafushi. But you can actually get water villas with water slides all to yourself. So I think there's an atmosphere property, sorry, an ozone property, not far from the airport, about 20 minutes speedboat. It's called Ozone Bolafushi, and they have water villas with slides. So yeah, I mean, pretty much that's just showing off, isn't it, really? But a cool thing to take photos of, and I'm sure if anyone's got kids, they would go absolutely crazy for it. But otherwise, yeah, dolphin cruise is the classic, you know, champagne, canapes as the sun is setting, seeing a pod of dolphins. You're pretty much guaranteed dolphin sightings when you're in the Maldives. It is pretty amazing, whichever island you're staying at, to be honest. But if you want to explore a bit more of the Maldives, you can also do yachts. We use a company called Scuba Spa, who are really, really good, and you can hire a cabin. I think they have about 6 cabins on the boat, and you can get a mixture of, you can do like free dives a day, or if you're not interested in diving, you can get free several spa treatments a day as well. So you can do a mixture of the two, spa treatments and dives. And meanwhile, you're doing a 4 or 7 night itinerary around the best parts of the Maldives, visiting beautiful picnic islands, little sandbanks, local islands, you name it, they'll go there. So it's a great way of seeing more of the country, but also enjoying a luxury stay on a beautiful yacht and being pampered. That's just kind of a summary of the resorts. But yeah, that's a little overview of the Maldives. There's a lot of funny names that, you know, will require maybe, you know, Google some and have a look and see what you think. But I'm sure Louise will be able to help you in sort of narrowing down your search for the particular property that you're looking for. And yeah, just give as much information from what you want out of the holiday as possible, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of narrow down to that particular, the best property that's going to suit you and your needs.
That's fab, Thomas. I want to go now. But everybody else does, don't they? Has anybody got any questions? Or, you know, basically with the Maldives, we can actually do flights from Manchester, but you'd have to go via Dubai or Abu Dhabi. And a lot of people tend to do like city stays. So they stay 2 or 3 nights in Dubai or Abu Dhabi and then go on to the Maldives for 10 nights, that sort of thing. That's what a lot of people tend to do, because it just breaks the journey up going out. And it's nice to go in the city first, and then you're just relaxing for the rest of the holiday. So that's what a lot of people tend to do. If you don't want to do that, you could go direct from London on the British Airways flight, but that would take you direct to Maldives. But again, BA do go via Dubai, so you'll be able to fly direct to the Maldives if you wanted to, then come back via Dubai back into London. So that's another option you could possibly do, or the other way around, just depending. But yeah, there's loads of options. We are actually quoting now for 2022. So if anybody's looking to go next year, we can have a look at that. You've got a lot of your rates out, haven't you, Thomas, for 2022 now?
Yeah, we've got quite a few of them out. I think we should have most of them up and loaded by the beginning of March. Pretty much everything. We're pushing the resorts. Some of them take a little bit of time to get them out, but we can certainly quote anyway, even if they're not loaded yet.
I mean, the people that we deal with at Hummingbird are amazing, and we've dealt with them for a good few years now, and they're so knowledgeable, you know. So if you want to do something quirky, you know, they are there to let us know what can be done. So it is good to have that destination specialist to make that holiday special for you, you know. So, but yes, I hope you all enjoyed that. Yes, Maggie.
So have you heard anything about whether, if we have our COVID passport, i.e. we've had both our jabs, then we wouldn't need to have a test to go there?
Well, at the moment, I think they're trying to do this app at the moment on your phone, where that will show that you've actually had your COVID jab. So that'll be sufficient for you to travel, basically. But it all depends on where you're traveling to as well, you know, whether they're not on the red list or whatever, you know. So you know, at the moment it's all up in the air, but that's what they're trying to do at the moment. So yeah, if they have a COVID jab, Thomas, would they have to have the PCR test as well? Just thought about that then.
I think at this stage you still do need to take the PCR test as well, but I think that might change. It depends, because even having taken the vaccine, you can still carry COVID, right? So that's still there is that still slight risk to the local population. So I think basically that will change once the local population is all vaccinated. That's really what they're protecting is the local population. So yeah, I would say maybe, you know, even by the time we're actually allowed to travel, that might be a possibility.
Yeah. So I mean, holiday wise, I'm booking people from September onwards, just to be cautious, really, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I have had people want to go July, August, but obviously you've got to explain the situation. And all the holidays that we tend to book are packaged together. So we actually book the holidays with a deposit only, and then, you know, if something happens, we don't get the tickets issued on the flights until near the time. So then we're not actually stuck with that particular airline that we can do full refunds for people. So, you know, we have got a COVID policy within travel counsellors as well, that, you know, we try and protect wherever we can on the bookings that we make for people. So that's just a peace of mind, really, you know. And obviously with Thomas, I had somebody booked for the 8th of March to go to the one and only. And I was speaking to one of the reservation staff, said, the guy doesn't want to pay in full yet, he doesn't pay his deposit. And said, yeah, that's fine. Just take the full payment near the time and see what's happening. And lo and behold, they couldn't travel. So he just transfers deposit to another holiday. So, you know, it is quite flexible with myself, and that's the beauty of booking through somebody like me. I'm in control, and I like to be in control. So yeah. Any other questions, guys? Did you all enjoy it?
Very good, thank you. It's very good.
Yeah, that's good. I enjoyed it. I learned quite a bit as well. You're never too old to learn, you know, are you, Reg?
Oh, what?
Love you, really. Do anything take your fancy, Kerry? Lots.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we'd have to have a conversation with you at some point, I think, Louise.
When you get married?
So it's August next year.
August
so
22.
We'll be looking at the end of August, beginning of September. But I think Maldives is winning, isn't it?
Isn't it? Helen, you still there, love? Look very dark. Can't see her. Oh, there she is. Katie, all right, love?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Does that whet your appetite?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's always been on my top kind of 3 places that I want to go. And we didn't get there for honeymoon, did we? We did Mauritius. So Maldives, it needs to be done, doesn't it?
It certainly does. A bit of a stop in Dubai on the way. Yay.
Yeah. Well, you're keen for that,
Definitely,
aren't you?
yeah. Mix it up a bit.
Yeah, definitely. That's what most people tend to do. Just breaks the flight up a little bit as well, you know.
Yeah.
Do you find people like move around resorts in the Maldives? Obviously, there's so many different areas and different things in different places.
Yeah, so you can do twin center stays sometimes. We get guests maybe to going from one island to the other, and all I'd say for if you're doing maybe two or 3 properties is to try and have them in the same atoll, so it's easy to get from one resort to the other. You can just take a speedboat from one resort to the other, because if they're in 2 different atolls and a long way away, it might mean you have to fly back to Mali Airport and then wait for the next connecting seaplane, and you kind of waste a day sometimes because the connections might not match up. So that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, we do twin center stays, but we try and organize it so it sort of geographically makes sense, and it works quite well. But yeah, it's great to kind of do a bit, do an interesting combination, learn a bit more about the Maldives, and the most important thing I would say is finish on the higher standard resort.
Definitely.
Good tip.
Mm-hmm.
So any more questions, or are you all all beached out.
Louise,
I'm all
sorry.
jealous.
Louise, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm
Hi,
sorry, I
love.
was a little bit late to the party. Hi. I don't know if Thomas covered this. When is the best time, recommended time to travel to the Maldives? Or is there not? Is it kind of all year round?
Yeah, we do recommend all year round, really. I mean, I was saying that we're currently in the sort of peak season, which is, great for weather, but it's also very kind of quite expensive this time of year, and you can get really good deals from May to October, and particularly for sort of June, July, August, so early September, you also get great weather as well. So don't be shy of looking at those months, and you've got a great chance, great deal, and great weather.
Sounds good. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Fab. Okie dokie. Well, there's no more questions. We'll love you and leave you.
Right, thank you very much.
If you need any information, you know where I am.
Thank you.
You do. Thank you
right.
very much. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.